You can stow it down to the Antarctic, and against the lean years, and you wouldn't have any people in the world really starving it.
We've explored jungles, scaled mountains and mapped oceans, but there's one place on Earth that continues to defy access, explanation, and in some minds even reality. Antarctica. A frozen fortress at the bottom of the planet, shielded by sub-zero temperatures, howling katabatic winds, and miles-thick walls of ancient ice. But what if what we see isn't all there is? For decades, governments have tightly controlled access to this vast, barren continent, citing environmental protection and scientific research. But the intensity of secrecy, the locked flight paths, the restricted zones, it all begs a question. What exactly are they keeping hidden behind the Antarctic Ice Wall? Antarctica isn't just a landmass, it's a geological enigma. Beneath its surface lies the Gamburtsev mountain range, completely buried under ice, taller than the Alps, and stretching for 750 miles. They weren't even discovered until the late 1950s. No one knows exactly how they formed or why they've remained perfectly preserved under 14,000 feet of snow. Even stranger, there are more than 400 subglacial lakes beneath Antarctica, kept in liquid form by geothermal heat. The largest of these is Lake Vostok, sealed beneath 2.5 miles of solid ice for over 15 million years. When Russian scientists drilled into it, what they found sent shockwaves through the scientific community, signs of microbial life unlike anything known on Earth's surface, organisms that thrived without sunlight, in conditions of crushing pressure and freezing darkness. But that's not all. Beneath that ice, scientists also detected strange magnetic anomalies, particularly near Lake Vostok. Instruments showed irregular energy signatures, as if something was giving off electromagnetic pulses from below. While the official explanation attributes these to geological features, some experts argue the data doesn't quite add up. And then there's the mystery of the Wilkes Land crater. In 2006, NASA satellites picked up a gravitational anomaly stretching 300 miles wide under Antarctica's ice sheet. Some believe it could be the remains of an ancient asteroid impact that caused the Permian-Triassic extinction. Others speculate it's something entirely different, a buried structure, a void, or something that predates human history altogether. Despite the continent's importance, no one owns Antarctica. The Antarctic Treaty, signed in 1959 by over 50 nations, bans military activity and mineral mining. But what raises eyebrows is how fast countries rush to sign it, and how strictly they enforce it. No-fly zones, limited permits, heavily monitored research stations. Getting close to certain parts of Antarctica isn't just hard, it's practically impossible. Even satellite imaging of some sectors appears blurred or inconsistent, which has only fueled speculation. One theory that's circulated for decades, though widely disputed, suggests the presence of a massive wall of ice encircling the continent, forming a natural barrier. While there's no scientific basis for the idea of an ice wall hiding the edge of the Earth, the real ice cliffs that line Antarctica's coast are colossal. Some rise over 200 feet above sea level and stretch for hundreds of miles, giving the illusion of an endless frozen barricade. But it's not the wall that's the mystery. It's what lies beyond it, or perhaps beneath it, that has the world's attention now. Despite the Antarctic Treaty's peaceful appearance, history tells a more complex story, one that includes warships, secrecy, and expeditions cloaked in confusion. In 1946, just after World War II, the United States launched Operation High Jump, one of the largest military expeditions ever conducted in Antarctica. Led by Rear Admiral Richard E. Byrd, the mission included 13 ships, 33 aircraft, and over 4,700 men. Officially, it was labeled a training and research mission, but the scale suggested something more. They stayed only 6 months, despite planning for 8, and withdrew suddenly. Admiral Byrd gave a chilling interview afterward, warning that America may be attacked by aircraft flying over one or both poles. What did he mean by that? And why was it never followed up? This gave rise to one of Antarctica's most persistent legends, the claim that Nazi Germany had established secret bases on the continent during World War II. Documents confirm that German ships conducted multiple expeditions to Queen Maud Land in the late 1930s, dropping thousands of metal swastika-marked flags from planes to claim territory. They named it Neuschwabenland, and some believe the Third Reich had ambitions far beyond flags. Rumors spread that they constructed underground bunkers and planned to launch long-range weapons from the South Pole. After the war, several Nazi officials disappeared without a trace. Coincidence or connection? These theories gained traction partly because of Antarctica's vast unexplored territory. Less than 2% of the continent's subsurface has been mapped in detail. Underneath the layers of ice, researchers have identified complex topography, including massive valleys, cave systems, and ice tunnels wide enough to fly a plane through. One of the most jaw-dropping discoveries came in 2018, when NASA's Operation Icebridge detected a cavern the size of Manhattan beneath the Thwaites Glacier. It wasn't just a gap, it was a growing void, large enough to fit 14 billion tons of ice that had recently melted. Scientists called it a sign of rapid climate collapse. Others wondered, what if it wasn't just melting, but clearing something out? To add another layer of mystery, GPS doesn't work normally at the South Pole. Because of magnetic field interference, positioning systems near the poles are wildly inaccurate. Military aircraft often switch to manual navigation when flying near certain Antarctic zones. Even more strange, some commercial flight paths are designed to avoid flying over Antarctica entirely, despite it being the shortest route between continents like Australia and South America. The more you look, the more Antarctica starts to feel less like a lifeless desert and more like a vault, something ancient, something buried, something that the world isn't ready to see, at least not yet. In 1955, the United States launched an expedition so massive it sounded like a wartime operation. Operation Deep Freeze wasn't just about weather stations or science labs. It was about establishing a permanent presence on a continent where no nation legally held claim. Behind the banners of research were nuclear-powered icebreakers, cargo planes dropping tons of classified equipment, and personnel sworn to secrecy. Some of that secrecy was aimed at what the US Navy encountered during Operation High Jump in 1946, just a few years earlier. That mission was led by Admiral Richard Byrd, a decorated polar explorer with years of experience. But according to reports buried in post-expedition briefings, Byrd's team suffered heavy losses, more than would be expected from weather alone. His statements to the press hinted at flying objects capable of traveling from pole to pole at incredible speeds. Then the interviews stopped. For years, his warnings were chalked up to exhaustion or embellishment, but the mission's aggressive nature said otherwise. Operation High Jump included destroyers, submarines, and 4,700 troops, not your standard research crew, and they left earlier than planned. Since then, Antarctica has remained curiously off-limits to regular exploration. The Antarctic Treaty, signed in 1959, prohibits military activity, mining, and claims of sovereignty. While on the surface it sounds peaceful, the wording leaves plenty of room for tightly controlled access. Only select missions are allowed, and they rarely stray far from the coast. Satellite images of the interior are heavily censored or obscured by cloud cover. Mapping services like Google Earth often show the same patches of distortion or pixelation, particularly near the Queen Maud Land region. That's the same area where earlier Nazi expeditions claimed to have found massive cave systems and warm water lakes beneath the ice. Rumors of Neuschwabenland, a supposed secret Nazi base in Antarctica, have circulated for decades. While most historians reject the idea, declassified documents confirm that Nazi Germany sent multiple missions to the South Pole in the late 1930s. They even dropped aluminum darts across the region to mark territorial claims. After World War II, both Soviet and American intelligence became obsessed with tracking down remnants of Nazi technology, and many believed Antarctica was key. Operation Paperclip had already brought over hundreds of German scientists to the US, some of whom worked on advanced propulsion systems. Meanwhile, classified patents filed by the US Navy in the early 2000s describe inertial mass reduction devices, in simpler terms, crafts that can alter their gravitational footprint. These patents were quietly approved after being initially rejected for lacking proof. The difference? They claim to have tested them in remote environments. And there's only one place on Earth remote enough, vast enough, and unmonitored enough to test technology like that, beneath the ice. One of the most mysterious installations in Antarctica is the Ice Cube Neutrino Observatory, buried more than a mile beneath the surface at the Amundsen Scott South Pole Station. Officially, it's described as a telescope designed to detect neutrinos, subatomic particles that barely interact with matter. But its sheer scale and budget raise eyebrows. It uses over 5,000 optical sensors embedded in a cubic kilometer of ice. Some researchers have questioned why this technology couldn't be placed elsewhere in easier, more accessible conditions. Why Antarctica? What's really being detected beneath all that ice? Back in 2016, seismic sensors around Antarctica picked up a series of rhythmic pulses. They weren't earthquakes. They came at regular intervals and from a source too deep to track by traditional means. Some believe it was natural ice shifting. Others believe it was something turning on or sending a signal out. In 2020, a strange glitch in satellite data showed what looked like a heat anomaly originating from a location deep within the no-fly zone near Marie Byrd Land. It appeared briefly on thermal imaging before vanishing from every public database. Independent researchers scrambled to retrieve the archived data, but by the time they did, the imagery was either corrupted or removed entirely. No official explanation was given. There's also the increasing speculation about the dome, a theory rooted in ancient cosmologies but now resurfacing in modern fringe science. Some claim that the Antarctic ice, several ancient maps, including the Piri Reis map from the 1500s, depict Antarctica in precise detail, centuries before it was officially discovered. This sparked theories that ancient civilizations knew of the continent, or perhaps even lived on it when it wasn't covered in ice. That raises an even deeper question. Was Antarctica always frozen? Or did something cause a rapid shift, something so powerful that it wiped the slate clean? In the end, Antarctica remains the most heavily protected patch of land on the planet, despite having no cities, no wars, and no permanent residents. It's not the cold that keeps people out. It's the silence. Something beneath that ice is older than our records, stronger than our understanding, and far more important than we've been told. Whatever it is, governments have agreed. No one gets too close. Maybe because what's hidden there could change everything. And that's all we have for now on the world's most forbidden continent, a land wrapped in ice, secrets, and silence. If even half of what's been whispered is true, Antarctica isn't just a place, it's a locked vault. Until someone finds the key, we're left with questions no one wants answered. But what do you have to say about such mysterious discoveries? Make sure to let us know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching.